This is Arthur Green, and if you're hearing my voice right now, I want you to understand something important. I am not a professional broadcaster. I am not a scientist. I am not anyone with special training or secret knowledge about what has happened to our world. I am a man who used to work as a night security guard at a small museum in a town that doesn't exist anymore, at least not the way it did before. The museum is gone now. I watched it go. Not all at once, not in some dramatic explosion or collapse, but slowly, piece by piece, buried under the snow that never stops falling. I stayed there as long as I could, huddled in the basement, with whatever supplies I had managed to gather during those first confusing days when nobody understood what was happening. The snow came first, just a little at a time, the kind of light flurries you might expect in late autumn. But it didn't stop, and it didn't melt, and it kept coming. I remember standing at the museum's front window, watching the cars on the street disappear under white drifts that grew higher with each passing hour. People tried to dig them out at first, shovels and bare hands, frantic and desperate. But there were too many cars and too much snow, and eventually they stopped trying. They just walked away, leaving their vehicles behind like frozen sculptures in an art installation nobody asked to see. The power went out on the third day. I remember the exact moment because I was drinking coffee from the old machine in the break room when the lights flickered, held on for one long, desperate second, and then died completely. The building went dark and quiet in a way that felt final, like someone had closed a door and locked it behind them. I sat there in the darkness for a long time, just holding my cold cup of coffee, not sure what to do next. That was when I found the radio. It was an old thing, a relic from the museum's collection that had been sitting in a storage room for decades. A 1940s shortwave receiver, the kind used by soldiers during the war, heavy and solid and built to last. I don't know why I thought to try it. Maybe some part of me understood, even then, that the new things were all dead, and the old things might still have some life left in them. I carried it to the basement, found a generator in the maintenance closet that still had a quarter tank of fuel, and figured out how to connect them together. That was 2 months ago, or 3 months, or maybe it's been longer. I've lost count of the days because the snow doesn't change, the light doesn't change, and the silence has become so complete that I find myself talking just to hear the sound of my own voice. The generator ran out of fuel after the first week, but the radio kept working somehow. I think it runs on something else now, something I don't fully understand. The needle on the dial glows faintly in the darkness, and the sound comes through clear and steady, as if the thing has decided to keep going for reasons of its own. I broadcast every day now, not because I think anyone is listening, but because I need to believe someone is. I need to believe that somewhere out there, in the endless white, there are other people still alive, still breathing, still trying to understand what happened to us. What I know is this: the snow started, and it didn't stop. The temperature dropped, and it didn't rise. The scientists on the radio, before their voices went silent one by one, talked about something they called a feedback loop. They said the white snow reflected the sun's heat back into the atmosphere, which made it colder, which made more snow, which reflected more heat, on, until the whole planet started to cool in a way that couldn't be reversed. They said it might take years or decades or centuries. They said we might be looking at a new ice age, the kind that our ancestors survived with nothing but fire and fur and stubborn determination. I thought about my ancestors a lot in those first weeks. I thought about the people who crossed frozen landscapes, who hunted with spears and slept in caves, who passed down stories around fires that kept the darkness at bay. I thought about how they managed to survive when everything they knew was buried under ice. I thought about what they would think of me, sitting in a museum basement with my old radio, waiting for a voice that never comes. The museum is buried now. I dug my way out through a window at the back of the building, crawling through snow that came up to my chest, carrying the radio wrapped in blankets. blankets, and a few days' worth of canned food and bottled water. I found an abandoned house at the edge of town, a two-story wooden thing that had already collapsed in on itself from the weight of the snow. But the basement was intact, and the walls were thick, and it was better than staying in a building that was slowly being crushed. I've been here ever since. I keep the radio running, I keep a small fire going using wood from the house's broken furniture and the trees that have fallen and frozen in the yard, and I wait. I don't know what I'm waiting for. Rescue seems impossible. Help seems unlikely. But I keep waiting anyway, because stopping would mean accepting that this is all there is, and I'm not ready to accept that yet. Some days I think about the people I knew before, my friends, my colleagues, the faces I saw every day without really seeing them. I wonder where they are now, if they're still alive, if they found shelter and warmth and something like hope. I think about the woman who used to come to the museum every Tuesday, the one with the red coat and the quiet smile, who always stopped to look at the fossil collection. I never learned her name. I never said anything to her beyond the usual pleasantries. I think about that now, and I wish I had said more. Other days, I just sit in the darkness and listen to the silence. The snow absorbs sound in a way that feels unnatural, like the whole world has been wrapped in cotton and left to drift. Sometimes I hear the wind outside, but even that sounds muffled and distant, as if it's happening somewhere else entirely. I've learned a few things in the time I've been here. I've learned that fire is more precious than gold, that a single can of beans can feel like a feast, that the human body can survive on remarkably little when it has to. I've learned that loneliness has a weight to it, a physical pressure that sits on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. I've learned that hope is a fragile thing, but it's also stubborn, and it keeps coming back no matter how many times you try to kill it. I don't have much left in terms of supplies. The canned food is almost gone. The water I've been collecting by melting snow is clean enough to drink, but it doesn't taste like anything, and sometimes I catch myself missing the taste of ordinary tap water, like it's some kind of delicacy I'll never taste again. I'm rationing everything, stretching each meal as far as it will go, but I know it's only a matter of time before I run out of options. That's why I'm broadcasting today. Not because I have something important to say, not because I have answers, but because I want to leave some kind of record. I want someone to know that I was here, that I tried, that I didn't just fade away into the snow like everyone else. I want there to be a voice in the darkness, even if it's just my voice, even if no one ever hears it. My name is Arthur Green. I'm 42 years old. I used to be a security guard at a small museum, and now I'm the last person in a town that's been erased by snow. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to keep this broadcast going. The radio might fail, the fire might go out, something might happen to me that I can't predict or prevent. But for now, I'm still here, and I'm still talking, and I'm still hoping that somewhere out there, someone is listening. If you are listening, please know that I understand if you can't respond. I understand if you're too far away, if your own situation is too desperate, if you've already given up on the idea of communication. Just hearing your voice, just knowing that I'm not the only one still breathing in this frozen world, that would be enough. But even if you never speak, even if I never hear another human voice again, I want you to know that you're not alone either. I'm here. I've been here all along. And as long as this radio keeps working, I'll keep broadcasting. I'll keep telling you what I see, what I think, what I remember. I'll keep trying to build a bridge across the cold and the silence and the distance. The snow is falling again tonight, the same way it's fallen every night for months. It piles up against the windows, blocks out the stars, makes the world smaller and smaller, until all that's left is this room, this fire, this voice. But I'm still here, and I'm not going to stop. This is Arthur Green, broadcasting from somewhere in the middle of a frozen world. If you can hear me, please stay tuned. Please stay with me. Please don't let the silence win. I'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same voice, same stubborn refusal to let go. Until then, stay warm, stay safe, stay alive. The snow is still falling, the fire is still burning, and the radio is still on. I'm Arthur Green, and this is what's left of the world. The temperature dropped again last night. I can feel it in my bones now. A deep cold that doesn't go away no matter how close I sit to the fire. It's the kind of cold that makes you think about dying. Not in a dramatic way, but quietly, like slipping into sleep and not waking up. I've been thinking about that more than I should. It's hard not to, when the world outside is nothing but white and silence, and the slow creep of ice across everything you've ever known. I've been trying to remember what warmth felt like. Real warmth, I mean. The kind that comes from a summer afternoon, or a sunny room, or another person's hand in yours. The fire I keep burning is good. It keeps the worst of the cold at bay, but it's not the same. It's a thin warmth, a desperate warmth, the kind that reminds you with every flicker how close you are to losing it entirely. My supplies are getting dangerously low. I counted everything this morning, laid it all out on the floor in neat little rows like a miser counting coins. 6 cans of beans, 3 cans of soup, 2 cans of corn that I've been saving for a special occasion I'm not sure will ever come. A bag of rice that's maybe a quarter full. Some dried pasta that I've been eating in tiny portions, just a handful at a time. I've been melting snow for water, which is fine for now, but I worry about what happens when the snow isn't clean anymore, when the air gets so cold and still that even the falling snow carries something in it, some impurity I can't see or taste until it's too late. I found a dead bird in the yard this morning. A crow, I think, or maybe it was a raven. It was hard to tell through the frost on the window. It was frozen solid, its wings spread wide like it had been trying to fly when the cold caught up with it. I stared at it for a long time, wondering if I should go out and retrieve it, if I should try to eat it, if I could bring myself to do something that desperate. In the end, I left it where it was. I couldn't bring myself to go outside again. The cold is too much now, and the snow is too deep, and every time I open the door I feel like I'm letting in something I can't push back out. The radio has been picking up strange signals lately. Not voices, not exactly. More like echoes, fragments of broadcasts that don't quite form into words. I spend hours spinning the dial, searching for something, anything, that sounds like a human being. Sometimes I catch a whisper, a word or two that slips through the static like a ghost, and I lean forward, my heart pounding, desperate to hear more. But it always fades. The signal always breaks apart, and I'm left with nothing but the hiss and crackle of empty air. I think I heard someone crying last night. It was very faint, barely there at all, like a sound coming from very far away. I pressed my ear against the speaker, held my breath, tried to make it real. But it was probably just the wind. The wind makes all kinds of noises when it blows through the broken houses and the frozen trees. It sounds like voices sometimes, like people calling out from a distance, and you have to remind yourself that it's just air moving over snow and ice, nothing more. There was a moment, maybe a week ago, when I picked up a station that was still broadcasting. A woman's voice, calm and measured, like she was reading a weather report for a day that would never come. She spoke slowly, repeating the same words over and over, as if she was trying to reach someone who might not understand English, or might not be able to hear well, or might be too far gone to comprehend what she was saying. She said there was a shelter somewhere in the north, a place where people were gathering, where there was food and heat and protection from the cold. She gave coordinates, directions, a description of what to look for when we got there. I wrote it all down. I have the paper folded up in my pocket, worn soft from handling, the ink smeared from sweat and frost. I don't know if the shelter is real. I don't know if it ever was real, or if the woman was just trying to give people something to hope for, a reason to keep walking through the snow when every instinct was telling them to lie down and give up. I've thought about trying to find it. I've thought about leaving this basement, packing up whatever I can carry, and walking north until I either find the shelter or die trying. But I know what's out there. I know the cold kills quickly, and the snow hides everything, and a person can walk in circles for days without ever realizing they're going nowhere. I've seen it happen. I've seen the bodies half buried in drifts, frozen in positions that look almost peaceful, like they just decided to sit down and rest for a moment and never got back up. I don't want to be one of those bodies. I don't want to become just another shape under the snow, waiting for the spring that might never come. So I stay here. I stay in my small basement with my fire and my radio and my dwindling supplies, and I wait. I tell myself I'm being smart, that I'm conserving my strength, that maybe if I'm patient enough, the weather will change and I'll be able to move again. But I know the truth. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the cold, afraid of the snow, afraid of dying alone in a world that no longer has room for human beings. I wonder sometimes if this is how it feels to be the last one, the last person in a town, the last voice on a frequency, the last heartbeat in a world that's slowly freezing to death. I think about the people who came before us, the ones who watched the ice advance and didn't run fast enough, the ones who huddled in caves and prayed to gods they didn't believe in anymore. I wonder if they felt this same weight, this same pressure of being the final witness to something that should have been beautiful, but turned into a tomb. The snow is deeper today than it was yesterday. I can't see the houses across the street anymore, just the roofs, just the chimneys sticking up like grave markers. The sky is a flat, gray-white, the color of old bone, and the sun hasn't shown itself in weeks. I don't know if the sun even exists anymore. I don't know if it's still up there, burning away like it always did, or if it's just given up on us entirely, if it's decided we're not worth the effort of warming anymore. I've started talking to myself, not in the normal way, not just muttering under my breath, but full conversations, like I'm speaking to someone who's sitting across the room from me. I tell them stories. I tell them about my childhood, about the summers I spent at my grandmother's house, about the way the grass smelled when it was cut, and the sound of cicadas in the evening. I tell them about the museum, about the fossils and the paintings and the quiet afternoons when no one came, and I had the whole building to myself. Sometimes I talk about the woman in the red coat. I tell my invisible listener about the way she used to walk through the exhibits, slowly and carefully, like she was savoring every moment. I tell them about her smile, about the way her eyes lit up when she looked at the trilobite collection, about how I never had the courage to say hello to her properly. I tell them I regret that. I tell them I would give anything to go back and change it, to walk up to her and say something, anything, that would have made her remember me. The fire is getting low. I need to find more wood. I've been putting it off, telling myself I'll do it tomorrow, but tomorrow keeps coming, and the wood keeps running out, and I keep finding reasons to stay inside. The truth is, I don't know if I have the strength to go outside anymore. I don't know if I have the will, but I have the radio. I still have the radio, and as long as I have that, I have a voice. I have a way to reach out into the silence and say, I'm here. I'm still here. I'm not gone yet. If you're listening, if you're out there somewhere, huddled in your own cold basement or your own frozen house or your own shrinking pocket of warmth, please know that I understand. I know how hard it is to keep going. I know how tempting it is to just give up, to let the cold take you, to stop fighting. I know because I feel it too. But I'm still here, and you're still here. And maybe that means something. Maybe it means we're not done yet. Maybe it means there's still a reason to hold on. I'll be back tomorrow. I don't know what I'll have to say, but I'll be here. I'll keep talking. I'll keep reaching out. This is Arthur Green, and I'm still broadcasting. I'm still here. I'm still trying. Please don't give up. Please don't let the silence win. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Something happened last night. Something I still don't fully understand. I was sitting by the fire, the radio humming softly in the corner, when I heard it. Not a voice on the frequency, Not the wind and the broken windows, but something else. A sound from outside. Close. Too close. I froze. I sat there in the dim glow of the fire and listened, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. The sound came again, a scraping, like something heavy being dragged across the snow. It was slow and deliberate, the kind of sound that makes you think about teeth and claws and things that hunt in the dark. I don't know what I expected to find when I finally worked up the courage to look. I crept to the window, staying low, trying to see through the frost that had built up on the glass. The snow was falling, same as always, thick and silent, but there was something moving out there. A shape, dark against the white, too big to be an animal, too slow to be a person. I watched it for a long time. It moved in a strange way, lurching and stumbling, like it was injured or exhausted or both. It came closer to the house, closer to the window, and I pressed myself against the wall, trying to become invisible. The scraping sound grew louder, closer, until it was right outside, just a few feet away from where I was standing. And then it stopped. The shape stopped moving. I heard something that might have been a sigh, a long, slow exhale that seemed to carry all the weight of the world. And then a voice, thin and cracked, barely more than a whisper. Please, is someone in there? Please, I'm so cold. I didn't open the door. I wanted to. Every part of me wanted to open that door and let whoever it was inside to share my fire and my food and my small, fragile warmth. But I couldn't. Something held me back. Some instinct, some deep animal part of my brain that remembered the stories, the warnings, the things that lurked in the snow and called out in human voices to lure you closer. I've heard those stories. Everyone has. The things that live in the cold now, the things that followed when the ice came down from the north and the world turned white. I don't know if they're real. I don't know if they're just stories we tell ourselves to explain the things we can't understand, the shapes we see in the blizzard, the sounds we hear in the silence. But I know what I felt standing at that window, listening to that voice plead for help. I felt fear. Pure, unfiltered, primal fear. The voice called out again, weaker this time, almost fading into the wind. Please, I don't have much time. Please help me. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I stood there in the dark, and I listened to the voice grow fainter, to the scraping sound start again as the shape moved away, staggering back into the snow and the night. I listened until there was nothing left but the wind and the silence, and then I went back to the fire, and I sat down and I stared into the flames, and I tried not to think about what I had just done. I've been turning it over in my mind all night. What if it was real? What if it was just a person, a survivor, someone who had walked for days through the cold looking for shelter, looking for any sign of life in this frozen wasteland? What if I let them die out there, alone and afraid, because I was too scared to open a door? But what if it wasn't a person? What if it was one of those things, the ones that wear human voices like masks, the ones that stalk through the snow looking for warmth and life and whatever else they need to keep existing? What if I had opened that door and let something in that I couldn't push back out? I don't know which possibility is worse. I don't know if I'm the kind of person who abandons others to save himself, or if I'm just a man trying to survive in a world that's become impossible. I don't know anything anymore, except that the snow keeps falling and the cold keeps spreading and I'm running out of time. I checked the supplies again this morning. The reality is stark. I have maybe 2 weeks of food left, 3 if I stretch it to the breaking point. After that, I'll have nothing. I'll have to make a choice. Stay here and starve, or go outside and try to find something, anything, that will keep me alive a little longer. The thought of going outside fills me with dread, not just because of the cold, though the cold is bad enough. Not just because of the snow, though the snow is deep and treacherous and hides things beneath its surface that can kill you without warning. It's the shapes. The shapes I see when the wind picks up and the snow blows sideways, and everything blurs into a gray-white haze. The shapes that move in ways that don't make sense, that shift and flow and disappear when you try to look at them directly. I don't know if they're real. I don't know if they're hallucinations, the product of starvation and isolation and the constant grinding pressure of fear. But I see them. I see them all the time now, standing at the edge of the tree line, watching the house with eyes that aren't eyes, waiting for something I don't understand. The radio picked up something this morning. Not a voice, not exactly, but a pattern. A series of sounds that almost formed words, almost made sense, before dissolving back into static. I've been trying to decode it all day, to find some meaning in the noise, but it keeps slipping away from me. It's like trying to hold water in my hands, like trying to remember a dream that fades the moment I open my eyes. I think about the woman in the shelter broadcast. I think about her calm voice, her steady promises of food and warmth and safety. I think about the coordinates I still have folded in my pocket, worn soft and fragile from all the times I've taken them out and looked at them and put them back. I think about walking north, about leaving this basement behind, about trying to find something that might not even exist. But I know what's out there. I saw it last night. I heard it. I felt its presence pressing against the walls of my small, fragile shelter. And I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the cold, afraid of the snow, afraid of the things that move in the dark. But I'm also afraid of staying here, of slowly running out of everything, of fading away with nothing but my own voice to keep me company. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I have the courage to leave or the strength to stay. I don't know anything except that I'm still here, still breathing, still broadcasting into the silence. If you're out there, if you're listening, if you heard the same things I heard last night, please be careful. Please don't open the door. Please don't trust the voices in the snow. But also please know that I understand. I understand the temptation. I understand the desperation. I understand how hard it is to resist the call of another human voice when you've been alone for so long. I found something today. Something that changes everything I thought I knew about this house, about this town, about the world I've been living in for what feels like forever. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if it's hope or warning or something else entirely. But I found it and I can't unsee it. And I need to tell someone about it, even if that someone is just a voice in the static. I was running out of wood. The fire has been burning low, and the cold has been seeping in through the walls, and I knew I had to make a decision. Either go outside and risk the shapes and the snow and the things that move in the dark, or find another source of warmth inside the house itself. I chose the second option. I started taking apart the furniture. The kitchen cabinets went first. Old wooden things that had been installed decades ago and had probably never been touched since. I pulled them off the walls with my bare hands, prying the nails loose, stacking the pieces in a pile near the fireplace. It felt wrong somehow, destroying something that had been built with care and intention, but the cold was stronger than the guilt, and that's when I found it. Behind the last cabinet, hidden against the wall like a secret someone had been trying to keep, there was writing. Words scratched into the plaster with something sharp, the letters uneven and pressed deep like the person who wrote them had been in a hurry, or afraid, or both. The first line read, "They came with the snow." I stared at it for a long time, my breath fogging in the cold air, my fingers tracing the grooves of the letters. The writing continued, spreading across the wall in ragged lines that sloped upward and downward, like the person had been writing while standing on something unsteady. The second line said, "Don't let them see you." The third said, "They look like us." The fourth, which was the hardest to read, said, "They want to come inside." I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I felt a cold that had nothing to do with the temperature settle into my bones. The words on the wall confirmed everything I had been trying to convince myself wasn't real. They confirmed the shapes, the voices, the thing that had called out to me last night from the darkness and the snow. I found more writing as I kept working, kept uncovering the hidden parts of this house. In the bedroom, under a loose floorboard, there was a journal. A small leather-bound thing with yellowed pages and handwriting that looked like it belonged to someone who had been educated, someone who had learned to write properly before the world fell apart. The journal belonged to a woman named Eleanor. She lived in this house, I think. Or maybe she was just passing through, the same way I am, looking for shelter from the endless winter. She wrote about the snow, about the cold, about the things she saw outside her window when the wind died down and the world went still. She wrote about the voices. She wrote about how they came at night, calling out in tones that sounded almost human, almost familiar, almost like someone you loved. She wrote about how hard it was to resist them, how strong the temptation was to open the door and let them in. She wrote about the moments of clarity, the realizations that something wasn't right, that the voices were wrong in ways she couldn't quite name. The last entry was dated 3 months ago. It said, "I don't know how much longer I can hold on. The cold is getting worse. The voices are getting louder. They know I'm here. They know I'm alone. They keep calling my name. I want to answer. I want to go outside. I want to see what's out there." The journal stopped there. There was nothing else. No explanation of what happened to Eleanor. No final thoughts. No resolution. Just that last sentence, hanging in the air like a question that would never be answered. I've been sitting with the journal in my hands for hours now, reading and rereading the entries, trying to understand what happened to the woman who lived here before me. I can't stop thinking about her. I can't stop wondering if she made the same choices I'm making, if she wrestled with the same fears and doubts and moments of terrible weakness. She did something else too, something I only discovered when I went back to the kitchen and looked more carefully at the wall behind the cabinets. She drew a map. It's rough and uneven, scratched into the plaster with the same sharp instrument she used to write her warnings. But it's a map. It shows the town, the houses, the roads that connect them, and it shows something else, something I didn't expect to see. There's a spot marked at the edge of the map, beyond the town limits, beyond the tree line that surrounds everything. The spot is circled, and next to it, in smaller letters, she wrote the word shelter, the same word the woman on the radio used, the same word that's been echoing in my mind for weeks now, pulling at me, calling to me like the voices in the snow. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if Eleanor ever made it to that shelter, or if she even believed it existed, but she drew it on her wall. She marked it with a circle and a word and a hope that must have been so bright it burned through the fear and the cold and the loneliness. I've been staring at the map all day. I've been turning it over in my mind, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wants to stay. Part of me wants to stay in this basement with my fire and my radio and my careful routines, never going outside, never taking any risks. But part of me wants to go. Part of me wants to find that shelter, to see if Eleanor's hope was real, to find out what's waiting for me at the edge of the map. The snow is still falling. The cold is still getting worse. The voices are still out there, calling and calling and calling. I can hear them sometimes, when the wind is just right, and the world goes quiet enough to listen. They call my name. They sound almost friendly, almost safe, almost like everything I've been missing for months and months and months. I know better now. I know what the writing on the wall says. I know what Eleanor's journal warns. But knowing and believing are different things, and part of me still wants to believe that the voices are real, that they're people, that they're out there looking for connection the same way I am. I'm going to keep the journal. I'm going to keep the map. I'm going to keep thinking about what it all means, and what I should do next. I don't have to decide today. I don't have to decide tomorrow. But eventually, I'm going to have to make a choice. Stay or go. Survive or take a chance. Keep hiding in the dark, or step out into the snow and see what's waiting for me. This is Arthur Green, and I've found something that might change everything. I've found a map, and a journal, and a story that isn't mine but feels like it should be. I found the words of a woman who was here before me, who faced the same fears, who struggled with the same questions. I don't know what happened to Eleanor. I don't know if she made it to the shelter, or if she opened the door to the voices, or if she just faded away like so many others. But I know she was here. I know she tried. I know she left behind something that matters. And I'm going to keep broadcasting. I'm going to keep talking, keep reaching out, keep telling the story of this frozen world and the people who live in it. Something has changed. I don't know how to explain it, but I can feel it in the air, in the way the cold presses against the walls, in the way the silence has taken on a different quality. It's heavier now, more expectant, like the whole world is holding its breath and waiting for something to happen. The sounds started 3 nights ago. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, the wood groaning under the weight of the snow, the normal noises that any old building makes when the temperature drops and everything contracts. But these sounds weren't normal. They were rhythmic, almost purposeful, like someone or something was moving through the walls. I've been trying to ignore them. I've been telling myself it's just my imagination, just the loneliness playing tricks on me, just the same paranoia that's been building since the snow started and never stopped. But the sounds keep getting louder, more distinct, more impossible to dismiss. They come at night, mostly, when the fire is low and the shadows are long, and the world outside has gone completely still. I hear scratching, soft and persistent, like claws against wood. I hear something that might be breathing, slow and steady, coming from somewhere behind the walls. I hear footsteps, muffled and distant, moving through spaces that shouldn't exist. I checked the house thoroughly yesterday. I went through every room, every closet, every dark corner that might hide a secret. I found nothing. No holes in the walls, no hidden passages, no sign that anything could be moving through the spaces between. The house is solid. The house is sealed. The house should be empty except for me. But I know what I heard. I know what I'm hearing right now, as I sit here by the fire and try to focus on the radio, and try to pretend that everything is normal. There's something in the walls. There's something moving through this house. Something that shouldn't be here. Something that I can't see or touch or understand. I've been thinking about Eleanor's journal. I've been reading it again and again, looking for clues, trying to find some explanation for what's happening to me now. She wrote about the sounds too. She wrote about the scratching and the breathing and the footsteps in the dark. She wrote about how they started small, barely noticeable, and grew over time until they were all she could hear, all she could think about, all she could feel pressing against her from every direction. She wrote about the night she finally saw it, the thing in the walls, the thing that had been watching her, waiting for her, learning her patterns and her fears and her weaknesses. She wrote about how it emerged from the darkness, how it moved in ways that didn't make sense, how it looked at her with eyes that weren't eyes, and spoke with a voice that wasn't a voice. I don't know if I believe her. I don't know if any of this is real, or if it's just the product of a mind that's been pushed too far by cold and hunger and isolation. But I know what I'm experiencing. I know the sounds are real. I know the fear is real. And I know I'm running out of time to figure out what to do about it. The scratching is getting worse. I can hear it right now, coming from the wall behind the fireplace. It's insistent, almost frantic, like something is trying to dig its way through. I've moved my chair to the other side of the room, as far away from the sound as I can get, but it doesn't help. I can still hear it. I can still feel it, vibrating through the floor, through the walls, through the air itself. I tried to broadcast about it yesterday. I sat down at the radio, turned on the microphone, and tried to find the words to explain what was happening, but the words wouldn't come. I just sat there, staring at the flickering lights, listening to the scratching and feeling the cold seep deeper and deeper into my bones. I don't know how much longer I can stay here. I don't know how much longer I can pretend that everything is fine, that I'm safe, that the walls will protect me from whatever is out there. The map is still in my pocket. The coordinates are still folded up, soft and worn from all the times I've held them, all the times I've thought about walking north and never looking back. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to leave this house behind, to take my chances in the snow, to try to find the shelter that might or might not exist. Maybe staying here is the real danger now. Maybe the walls aren't protection. Maybe they're a trap, a cage, a place where the things in the darkness can find me and take me and do whatever they do to people who stay too long. I'm afraid to leave. I'm afraid of the cold and the snow and the things that move in the blizzard. But I'm also afraid to stay. I'm afraid of what's in the walls, of what it wants, of what will happen when it finally breaks through. The scratching has stopped now. It stopped about an hour ago, just suddenly, like someone had been running their fingers across the wall and then decided to stop. The silence that followed is worse than the noise. It's a waiting silence, a watching silence, the kind of silence that makes you feel like something is holding its breath, waiting for you to make a mistake. I've been sitting here, not moving, not speaking, just listening. I can hear my own heartbeat. I can hear my own breathing. I can hear the faint crackle of the radio, the only sound that feels safe, the only sound that reminds me there's still a world out there, even if I can't see it or touch it or understand it anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should stay or go, fight or hide, give in to the fear or push through it. I don't know anything except that I'm still here, still broadcasting, still trying to make sense of a world that no longer makes any sense at all. The fire is dying. I need more wood. I need to move, to do something, to break this paralysis that has gripped me. But I can't move. I can't make myself stand up and walk across the room and face the wall where the scratching was coming from. I can't make myself be brave. I think about the woman on the radio, the one who talked about the shelter, the one with the calm voice and the steady promises of warmth and safety. I think about Eleanor, who drew a map on her wall and wrote a journal and tried to hold on as long as she could. I think about all the people who must have gone before me, all the voices that have faded into the static, all the stories that ended in silence. And I think about the voices in the snow, the voices that call out at night, that sound almost human, almost familiar, almost like someone I used to know. I think about how hard it is to resist them, how strong the pull is, how much I want to believe that they're real, that they're people, that they're out there looking for the same things I am. But I know better now. I know the writing on the wall. I know Eleanor's warnings. I know what happens to people who open the door. This is Arthur Green, and I'm still here. I'm still broadcasting. I'm still trying to hold on. The scratching has started again. It's coming from behind me now, from the wall that holds the map, the wall that marks the path north. It's louder than before, more insistent, like something is trying to tell me something. I don't know what it wants. I don't know if I want to find out. Please stay tuned. Please stay with me. Please don't let the silence win. I haven't slept in 2 days. Every time I close my eyes, I hear the scratching. Every time I drift toward unconsciousness, I feel something watching me from the darkness beyond the firelight. I've been sitting here, staring at the flames, trying to keep myself awake, trying to keep myself sane. The radio has been acting strange. It started last night, just after midnight, when the scratching had finally stopped and the silence had settled over the house like a blanket of snow. I was sitting by the fire, half asleep, when the radio crackled to life on its own. No static, no tuning, just a voice. Clear and steady and impossible. It was Eleanor. I know it was her. I've read her journal so many times that I've memorized the cadence of her words, the rhythm of her sentences, the way she put her thoughts together, and the voice on the radio was hers. The same voice that had written about the cold and the fear and the thing in the walls. The same voice that had drawn the map and circled the shelter and hoped for something better. She said, "Arthur, Arthur, can you hear me?" I couldn't speak. I just sat there, frozen, staring at the radio like it might suddenly turn into something else. The voice continued, calm and patient, like she had all the time in the world. I know you found my journal. I know you're in my house. I know you're scared. I know you don't understand what's happening. But I need you to listen to me, Arthur. I need you to listen and remember and do what I tell you. The scratching started again while she was speaking. It was loud, louder than before, coming from every wall at once, like the whole house was alive with movement. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. But I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything except sit there and listen to Eleanor's voice and feel the fear rise in my chest like a tidal wave. Don't let them in, she said. No matter what they sound like, no matter what they promise, no matter how much you want to believe they're real, they're not real. They're echoes, Arthur. Echoes of people who were here before. Echoes of people who opened the door and let the cold inside. Her voice started to fade, breaking apart into static and silence. I leaned forward, desperate to hear more, desperate to understand what she was trying to tell me. The shelter is real, she said, but it's not what you think. It's not a place. It's not a building. It's something else. Something you have to find on your own. Something you have to... The signal died. The radio went silent, and I was left alone with the scratching and the darkness and the weight of everything she hadn't been able to say. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, about her voice, about her warnings, about the way she said my name like she knew me, like she had been waiting for me to find her journal and her map and her story. I don't understand any of it. I don't understand how she could be on the radio, how she could be speaking to me from wherever she is, how she could know my name when I've never met her, never spoken to her, never even knew she existed until I found her journal behind the kitchen cabinet. I've been going through her journal again, looking for clues, looking for anything that might help me understand what's happening. And I found something. Something I missed before. Something that changes everything. In the back of the journal, on a page that was stuck to the cover and hard to see, there was a list of names. 5 names, written in the same careful handwriting as the rest of the journal. The first name was Eleanor. The second name was Thomas. The third name was Margaret. The fourth name was David. And the fifth name, the last name on the list, was Arthur. My name was in her journal. It was written there before any of this happened, before the snow started falling, before the world turned white and cold and silent. How could she have known my name? How could she have known that I would end up here, in her house, reading her words and listening to her voice on a radio that shouldn't exist? I don't have an answer. I don't have any answers. All I have is the scratching and the cold and the voice of a woman who shouldn't be able to speak to me, but does anyway. The scratching has changed. It's not just scratching anymore. It's something else. Something that sounds almost like words, almost like speech, almost like someone trying to communicate through the walls. I press my ear against the plaster, trying to hear more, trying to understand what it's trying to tell me, but the sounds are too faint, too distorted, too much like static that's almost but not quite a voice. I think about what Eleanor said, about echoes, about people who were here before, people who opened the door and let the cold inside. I think about the names in her journal, the list that included mine. I think about what it means, what it might mean, what it almost certainly means in the worst possible way. I'm not the first person to stay in this house. I'm not the first person to find the journal and the map and the voice on the radio. I'm not even the first person named Arthur to end up here, waiting for something to happen, something to change, something to break the endless cycle of snow and cold and silence. I'm part of something bigger, something that started before me and will continue after me. Something that I don't understand and might never understand, no matter how long I stay here, no matter how many broadcasts I make, no matter how many times I hear Eleanor's voice calling out from the static. The radio is silent now. It's been silent for hours. I've been sitting here, waiting for it to speak again, waiting for Eleanor to tell me more, waiting for some kind of sign that I'm not alone in this frozen nightmare. But nothing comes, just the scratching and the cold and the weight of a truth I'm not ready to accept. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if Eleanor was real, if the journal was real, if the voice on the radio was real. I don't know if the scratching is coming from something outside or something inside, or something that's been here all along, waiting for me to notice it. I don't know if I'm going crazy or if the world has actually become the impossible place it seems to be. But I know one thing. I know I can't stay here forever. I know I have to make a choice. Stay or go. Fight or give in. Keep broadcasting into the silence or finally let the silence win. The map is still in my pocket. The shelter is still out there, somewhere in the north, somewhere beyond the tree line and the snow, and the things that move in the blizzard. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's waiting for me or if it's just another echo, another ghost from a world that no longer exists. But I'm going to find out. I'm going to leave this house behind. I'm going to walk north and I'm going to keep walking until I either find what I'm looking for or I can't walk anymore. This is Arthur Green, and I'm making a choice. I'm going to take the map and the journal and the radio, and I'm going to find the shelter. I'm going to prove that Eleanor's hope wasn't just a dream, that there's something worth fighting for out there in the frozen world. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be broadcasting from the road, from the snow, from wherever I end up. I'll keep talking, keep reaching out, keep trying to find connection in a world that's trying so hard to make us all disappear. I left the house this morning. I finally did it. I packed everything I could carry, put on every layer of clothing I owned, and stepped out into the snow. The cold hit me like a physical blow, so intense that I almost turned back right then. But I kept walking. I kept moving forward. I kept telling myself that the shelter was real, that Eleanor's map was real, that there was something out there worth finding. The snow is deeper than I thought. It's up to my knees in some places, up to my waist in others. Walking through it is exhausting, like trying to wade through water that keeps freezing around your legs. I have to stop every few minutes, just to catch my breath, just to feel my feet again, just to remember why I'm doing this. I've been following the map as best I can. The landmarks Eleanor drew are hard to recognize now, buried under layers of white that have changed the shape of everything. But I can still see the outline of the town, the curve of the road, the line of the tree line that marks the edge of everything. I've been walking north, keeping the sun at my back, trying to stay on course, even when everything looks the same. The house is gone now. I looked back once, maybe an hour after I left, and it had already disappeared into the snow and the gray. Just a faint suggestion of a roof, a shadow against the white, and then nothing. It felt like saying goodbye to something important, even though I know the house was never really my home. It was just a place I stayed, a place I survived, a place that tried to hold me. The scratching hasn't followed me. At least, I don't think it has. I've been listening carefully, straining my ears against the wind, trying to catch any sound that doesn't belong. But all I hear is the wind and the snow and my own ragged breathing. Maybe the scratching was part of the house. Maybe it was tied to that place, to those walls, to the things that lived in them. Maybe leaving was the right choice after all. The radio is heavy in my pack. I brought it with me, even though it's cumbersome and awkward, and I don't know if I'll be able to find a signal out here. But I couldn't leave it behind. It's become a part of me, a part of my story, a part of who I am now. Carrying it feels like carrying the voices of everyone who came before me, everyone who spoke into the static and hoped someone was listening. I stopped for the night about an hour ago. I found a place where the snow had piled up against a fallen tree, creating a small hollow that offers some protection from the wind. I've built a fire, small but steady, using wood from the tree and dry leaves I found underneath the snow. It's not much, but it's enough to keep the worst of the cold away. It's enough to remind me that I'm still alive. I'm broadcasting from here, from this small pocket of warmth, in the middle of a frozen wasteland. I don't know if anyone can hear me. I don't know if the signal is reaching anyone. But I'm talking anyway. I'm telling my story. I'm making sure that someone knows what happened to me, even if that someone doesn't exist yet. The wind is picking up. I can hear it howling through the trees, shaking the branches, sending waves of snow across the ground. It's a lonely sound, a sad sound, the sound of a world that's given up on everything. I pull my coat tighter around me and stare into the fire and try not to think about how far I still have to go. I found something today, on the road. Something that made me stop and stare and feel a cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. There was a body half buried in the snow, frozen solid, arms reaching out like it had been crawling forward when the cold caught up. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. The features were too blurred, too covered with frost and ice, but I could see the direction they were facing, north. They had been walking north. They had been trying to find the same shelter I'm trying to find. I stood there for a long time, looking down at that frozen shape, wondering if I was going to end up the same way, wondering if I was walking toward something or walking toward nothing, if the shelter was real or if it was just a story we tell ourselves to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I took a small stone from the ground and placed it on the body, a small gesture of respect, a way of saying I saw you, I acknowledge you, I won't forget you. Then I kept walking. I didn't look back. I couldn't afford to. The days are shorter now. Or maybe it just feels that way because the sun never really rises, never really breaks through the gray clouds that hang over everything. The light is a dim, flat thing, like the world is lit from behind a dirty window. It makes it hard to tell time, hard to know when to stop, hard to remember what normal light used to look like. I've been trying to ration my food carefully, but it's getting harder. The cold makes me hungry in a way that feels primal, like my body is screaming for fuel to keep itself warm. I ate a can of beans for dinner tonight, sitting by the fire, eating slowly and deliberately to make it last. It was gone too quickly. It's always gone too quickly. I think about Eleanor, about the journal, about the list of names that included mine. I think about what it means to be part of a pattern, part of something that repeats itself over and over. I think about the other Arthurs who came before me, the ones who must have found the same journal, the same map, the same impossible voice on the radio. I wonder what happened to them. I wonder if any of them made it. The fire is dying. I need to find more wood, but I'm too tired to move. My legs ache from walking. My feet are numb from the cold. My mind is foggy from exhaustion and hunger, and the endless white that surrounds me. I just want to close my eyes and rest, just for a few minutes, just until the feeling comes back to my toes. But I know what happens if I fall asleep. I know the cold waits for moments like this, waits for the flicker of weakness, waits to wrap itself around me and never let go. I can't sleep. I can't stop. I have to keep going. I've been thinking about the woman in the red coat, the one from the museum, the one I never spoke to. I've been thinking about how different things might have been if I had said something, anything, if I had just walked up to her and introduced myself and let her know I existed. Maybe I would have had someone to share this with. Maybe I wouldn't be alone in the snow, talking to a radio that might not be reaching anyone. But I can't change the past. I can only move forward. I can only keep walking north, keep following the map, keep hoping that the shelter is real and that it's waiting for me somewhere beyond the white. This is Arthur Green, broadcasting from the road, from the cold, from the edge of everything. I'm still walking. I'm still trying. I'm still hoping. The fire is almost gone. I need to sleep. I need to rest. But I'll be back tomorrow. I'll keep talking. I'll keep reaching out. Please stay tuned. Please stay with me. This is Arthur Green, and I'm still here. I'm still moving forward. I'm still believing in something that might not exist. I'll talk to you tomorrow, if I can, if I'm still alive. Please don't give up on me yet. I saw something today. Something that made me stop in my tracks and stare and feel a hope so sharp it almost hurt. I saw footprints in the snow, fresh footprints heading north, just like mine. I've been walking for days now. I've lost count of how many. The landscape is endless white, broken only by the occasional tree or rock or frozen shape that might have once been something else. The cold has settled into my bones, a constant companion that I've almost stopped noticing. Almost. The hunger is worse. The hunger never stops. But the footprints changed everything. They were deep, pressed into the snow by someone heavy. Someone who had been walking the same path I'm walking. I followed them for hours, my heart pounding, my eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the person who had made them. I couldn't believe it. After all this time, all this silence, all this loneliness, there was someone else out here. Someone else who was still alive, still moving, still trying to survive. I caught up with them just before sunset, or what passes for sunset now, the dim gray light fading into an even dimmer gray. There were 3 of them, huddled together under a makeshift shelter of branches and snow. They saw me coming and tensed, ready to run or fight or whatever you do when you've been alone for too long and you don't know who to trust anymore. I stopped a good distance away and raised my hands. I called out, told them I was alone, told them I was just looking for the shelter, told them I didn't mean any harm. They stared at me for a long time, these 3 figures in the snow, their faces hidden under layers of cloth and frost. Then one of them stepped forward and lowered their hood, and I saw a woman's face, tired and thin, and so beautiful I almost cried. Her name is Maya. She used to be a nurse in a city I've never heard of, a place that probably doesn't exist anymore. She's been walking for weeks, she told me, ever since the cold got too bad and the shelters in the city started to fail. She met the other 2 along the way, a father and son named James and Peter who had been traveling together since the beginning. They were all heading north, following the same whispers, the same hope, the same desperate belief that there was something worth finding at the end of this frozen road. They let me join them. They let me sit by their fire and share their food and tell my story the way they told theirs. It was the first time I had spoken to another human being in months. The first time I had heard another voice that wasn't coming from a radio or a memory. I almost forgot how to do it. I almost forgot how to have a conversation, how to laugh, how to share a moment with another person. We talked for hours, huddled together in the shelter, the wind howling outside and the snow piling up against the branches. They told me about the things they had seen, the things that followed them through the blizzard, the voices that called out at night and sounded almost like people they used to know. They told me about the bodies they had found, frozen and still, their faces peaceful like they had just fallen asleep and never woken up. They told me about the hope that kept them going, the stubborn belief that there was something better waiting for them at the end of all this. I told them about the house, about the journal, about Eleanor and the map, and the voice on the radio that had called my name. They listened, without interrupting, their eyes wide in the firelight, and when I finished, they just nodded, like it all made sense to them, like they had heard similar stories before. We're walking together now, 3 strangers who became something more in the course of one night, bound by the cold and the snow and the shared need to survive. It feels strange having company after so long alone, strange and wonderful and terrifying, because now I have something to lose again. James is the quiet one. He doesn't say much, just walks with his head down, his son Peter close beside him. He lost his wife in the first weeks, he told me, before he understood what was happening. She went out to find supplies and never came back. He doesn't talk about her much. He doesn't talk about anything much, but he keeps walking. He keeps putting one foot in front of the other, and he makes sure Peter does the same. Peter is 12 years old. He's been walking for so long that he doesn't remember what it was like before the snow. He talks about it sometimes, about the things he's forgotten, the colors and the sounds and the warmth that used to exist. He asks me questions about the world before, about the museum, about the woman in the red coat, about all the ordinary things that seem so extraordinary now. I tell him what I remember. I try to make it sound real. Maya is the one who keeps us going. She's practical and sharp and doesn't let us dwell on things we can't change. She tells us about the shelter, about what she thinks it will be like, about the food and the heat and the safety that's waiting for us. I don't know if she believes it any more than I do, but she says it like she means it, and that's enough. That's more than enough. We found more footprints today, dozens of them, heading north, all leading the same way. Some of them were fresh, made within the last day or so. Others were older, half buried under new snow, almost invisible, but they were all going in the same direction. They were all heading toward the same place. I asked Maya what she thought it meant. She looked at me with those tired eyes and said, "It means we're not the only ones. It means there are others out there, others who believe the same things we believed, others who are walking the same road." She paused, then added, "It means the shelter might be real after all." I want to believe her. I want to believe that the footprints are a sign, that we're getting closer, that everything we've suffered through has been leading to something worth finding. But I've been wrong before. I've been wrong about so many things. The wind is picking up again. The snow is falling thicker, making it hard to see, hard to walk, hard to keep going. We've stopped for the night, huddled together in another makeshift shelter, another temporary pocket of warmth in the endless cold. The fire is small, but it's enough. It's always enough. I'm broadcasting from here, from this small circle of light in the darkness. I don't know if anyone can hear me. I don't know if the signal is reaching anyone out there in the frozen world, but I'm talking anyway. I'm telling the story of the five of us, of our small group of walkers, of the footprints that lead north, and the hope that keeps us moving. This is Arthur Green, and I'm not alone anymore. I have Maya and James and Peter and all the other walkers whose footprints we follow. I have a purpose and a direction and a reason to keep going. The cold is still here. The snow is still falling. The world is still white and silent and waiting. But I'm not afraid anymore. Not the way I was before. Because I know now that I'm part of something bigger. Something that started before me and will continue after me. Something that connects all of us, the walkers and the dreamers and the people who never gave up. We found something yesterday, something none of us expected, something that made us stop and stare and forget how to breathe for a moment. We found a city, or what used to be a city. It's hard to tell anymore, with everything buried under snow and ice, with the shapes of buildings reduced to soft white mounds that could be anything or nothing. We had been walking for days, following the footprints, following the map, following the desperate hope that there was something at the end of this frozen road. Maya kept saying we were getting close, kept pointing at the horizon and claiming she could see something, but I had stopped believing her. I had stopped believing in anything except the next step, the next breath, the next moment of survival. But then we crested a hill, and there it was, a city, spread out below us like a ghost of what it used to be. Towers of ice where skyscrapers had once stood, mounds of snow where neighborhoods had once thrived, the shapes of bridges and highways, and all the structures that had made up a world that no longer existed. James stood beside me, his hand on Peter's shoulder, and neither of them said a word. They just stared, like I was staring, like we were all trying to process something that didn't make sense. A city under the snow, a city of ghosts, a city that might hold the answers we had been searching for. Maya was the first to move. She started walking down the hill, her steps quick and determined, like she had made up her mind about something. We followed her, because there was nothing else to do, because the city was there, and we needed to know what was inside it. The streets were unrecognizable. The buildings were just shapes, soft and rounded, like the snow had smoothed out all the edges and made everything gentle. There were cars buried under the drifts, just outlines now, hints of metal and glass that had long since frozen and cracked. There were street signs, barely visible, their words obscured by frost and ice. We walked through the city for hours, following the footprints that led deeper and deeper into the white. There were more of them here, hundreds of them, crisscrossing each other in patterns that suggested movement and purpose. People had been here. People had walked these streets, looked at these buildings, wondered about this place the same way we were wondering. And then we found the shelter, or what we thought was the shelter. It was a building, larger than the others, still standing in a way that seemed almost defiant. The snow had piled up against its walls, but the roof was intact, and there were lights coming from the windows. Real lights, warm lights, the kind of lights that meant people were inside. I felt my heart start to beat faster. I felt a hope so intense it almost hurt. We had found it. After everything, after all the walking and the cold and the fear, we had found the shelter. We had found the place that Eleanor had marked on her map, the place the woman on the radio had described, the place that had kept us all going through the darkest moments. Maya started toward the building, her steps quick and eager. James and Peter followed, their faces bright with relief. But I held back. I stood there, watching them approach the shelter, and I felt something that wasn't quite hope, something that was closer to fear. I don't know why. I don't know what made me hesitate. Maybe it was the silence. The city was quiet, too quiet, even for a place buried under snow. There were no sounds coming from the building, no voices, no movement, nothing that suggested life. Just the lights, warm and steady, like a promise that hadn't been kept. I called out to Maya, told her to wait, told her something felt wrong. But she didn't stop. She kept walking, her hand reaching out toward the door, her face set in an expression of desperate hope. And then she pushed the door open and stepped inside. I waited. I waited for her to call out, to tell us what she saw, to invite us in. But there was only silence. The silence stretched on, longer and longer, until I couldn't take it anymore. I walked toward the building, James and Peter behind me, and I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The shelter was empty. It had been empty for a long time. The lights were still on, powered by something I couldn't identify, but there was no one there. No people, no signs of life, just empty rooms and cold furniture, and the echoes of footsteps that had long since faded away. I walked through the rooms, looking for any sign of what had happened here. I found supplies in the basement, cans of food and bottles of water, enough to last for weeks. I found beds and blankets and all the things you would need to survive, but I didn't find any people. I didn't find any explanation for why this place had been abandoned, why everyone had left, where they had gone. Maya was sitting on the floor in the main room, her face blank, her eyes staring at nothing. I sat down beside her and didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. We had found what we were looking for, and it had turned out to be just another empty space, just another broken promise, just another reason to stop hoping. James and Peter explored the rest of the building, looking for any sign of what had happened. They found the journal first, and then the notes, and then the truth that none of us had been prepared for. The shelter had been built in the first weeks of the freeze. A group of survivors had gathered here, hoping to wait out the cold, hoping that the snow would stop and the world would return to something normal. They had been organized, careful, prepared. They had stockpiled supplies and established routines and done everything right. But the voices found them. The same voices I had heard in the house, the same voices that had called out from the snow, the voices that sounded like people, that sounded like someone you loved, that sounded like everything you had lost and everything you wanted back. The survivors had opened the door.
One by one, they had opened the door and walked out into the snow, following the voices, following the promises, following the hope that someone was out there waiting for them. They had left behind everything, all the food and warmth and safety, just to follow a sound that wasn't real.
The last entry in the journal was dated 3 months ago. It said, "We can't stay here. The voices are too loud. We have to go. We have to find them. We have to be with them again." And then nothing. Just silence and empty rooms, and the lights that kept burning even though no one was there to see them.
I don't know what to do now. I don't know if we should stay here, in this empty shelter, or if we should keep walking, keep searching for something that might not exist. I don't know if the voices are real, if the people they promise are real, if anything is real anymore.
But I know one thing. I'm not going to open the door. I'm not going to follow the voices. I'm not going to make the same mistake as the people who were here before me. This is Arthur Green, broadcasting from the empty shelter, from the place that was supposed to be our salvation. I'm still here. I'm still trying. I'm still hoping. But the hope is thinner now. The hope is harder to hold on to. This is Arthur Green, and I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I'm still refusing to give up. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I've been in this shelter for 3 days now. 3 days of silence and empty rooms, and the distant sound of wind that never stops. Maya and James and Peter are still here, huddled in their own corners of the building, each of us trying to make sense of what we found. Each of us trying to decide what comes next. The shelter is warm, that's the strange thing. Whatever power source keeps the lights on also keeps the heating running, and for the first time in months I'm not cold. I can take off my gloves and feel my fingers again. I can sit without shivering. I can close my eyes and almost pretend that everything is normal, that the world outside is still the world I remember. But I know the truth. I know what's waiting for me if I step outside. I know the snow and the cold and the voices that call out in the night. I know the hollow promises and the empty hope, and the people who walked out of this shelter and never came back. I've been reading the journals they left behind. There are dozens of them stacked in a corner of the main room, filled with the stories of people who passed through this place. Some of them stayed for weeks, others for months. Some of them left, following the voices, chasing the ghosts of people they had lost. Others stayed until the end, until the cold and the silence and the loneliness became too much to bear. One journal in particular has stayed with me. It was written by a woman named Sarah, who stayed here longer than anyone else. She wrote about the shelter, about the routine of survival, about the small moments of peace she found in the midst of the chaos. She wrote about the voices, about how she learned to ignore them, about how she built walls around her heart to keep out the false promises. But she also wrote about the loneliness. She wrote about how it crept up on her, how it filled the empty spaces, how it made her question everything she believed. She wrote about the nights when she almost opened the door, when she almost walked out into the snow, when she almost gave in to the whispers that called her name. The last entry in her journal was dated 6 months ago. It said, "I can't stay here anymore. The loneliness is too much. I know the voices aren't real. I know they're just echoes of what I've lost. But I don't care anymore. I need to see them. I need to hear them. I need to believe that somewhere out there, they're waiting for me." She left the journal on the table, opened to that final page, and then she walked out the door and into the snow. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she found what she was looking for. I don't know if she's still out there, walking through the white, following the whispers to the end. I think about her a lot. I think about what it takes to keep going, to keep believing, to keep putting one foot in front of the other when everything around you is telling you to give up. I think about the strength it must have taken to stay here for so long, to fight the loneliness every single day, to keep the door closed even when every part of you wanted to open it. And I think about the moment when that strength finally ran out, when the loneliness became too much, when the hope faded, when the only thing left was the need to believe in something, even if that something wasn't real. I don't want to end up like Sarah. I don't want to walk out that door and disappear into the snow, another lost soul in a world of lost souls. But I understand why she did it. I understand what it feels like to be so alone that you would do anything, believe anything, risk anything, just to feel like you're not the only one left. Maya came to me last night. She sat down beside me, her face tired and thin, and she asked me what I was going to do. I told her I didn't know. I told her I was still trying to figure it out. She nodded, like she had expected that answer, and then she told me something that I've been thinking about ever since. She said, "I've been walking for so long that I don't remember what it felt like to be still. I've been running from the cold, running from the silence, running from the voices. But I'm tired, Arthur. I'm so tired. I don't know if I can keep running." I didn't have an answer for her. I still don't. All I know is that we're all tired. All of us, the survivors, the walkers, the people who have been fighting to stay alive in a world that's been trying to kill us since the day the snow started. We're all tired, and we're all running out of reasons to keep going. But I'm still here. I'm still broadcasting. I'm still telling my story, even though I don't know if anyone is listening. I'm still trying to find meaning in a world that has lost all meaning. I'm still refusing to give up, even when everything inside me is screaming to let go. The radio crackled to life this morning. Not with a voice, not with a signal, but with something that sounded almost like music. A melody, faint and distant, like a lullaby from a world that no longer exists. I sat there, listening to it, feeling tears stream down my face for the first time in months. I didn't know what it was or where it came from. I just knew that it was beautiful, that it was the most beautiful thing I had heard in all these long, cold months. The melody faded after a few minutes, replaced by static, replaced by silence, but I held on to it. I held on to the memory of those notes, that tune, that fleeting moment of something that felt almost like peace. I held on to it the way I've been holding on to everything, tightly, desperately, refusing to let go. James and Peter left this morning. They packed up their few belongings, said their goodbyes, and walked out the door into the snow. They didn't say where they were going. They didn't say if they were coming back. They just left, following the footprints that lead north, chasing the same hope that had brought us all here in the first place. I watched them go. I stood at the window and watched them disappear into the white, too small shapes against the endless snow. I wanted to call them back. I wanted to tell them to stay, to wait, to give it one more day. But I didn't. I couldn't. They had made their choice, the same way Sarah had made her choice, the same way all the others had made their choice. They had decided to keep walking, to keep hoping, to keep believing that there was something out there worth finding. Maya is still here. She's sitting in the corner of the room, her knees pulled up to her chest, her eyes fixed on the door that James and Peter walked through. She doesn't say anything. She just sits there, waiting, like she's not sure what to do next. I don't know what to tell her. I don't know what to tell myself. All I know is that I'm not ready to give up. I'm not ready to walk out that door and follow the voices into the snow. I'm not ready to stop broadcasting, stop talking, stop reaching out into the silence. The music is playing again, faint and distant, like a memory that's trying to find its way back. I'm sitting here, listening to it, trying to remember what it feels like to be warm and safe and loved. I'm trying to remember the woman in the red coat, the museum, the life I had before all of this. I don't know if I'll ever find my way back to that life. I don't know if there's anything left to find, but I know that I'm still here. I know that I'm still breathing. I know that as long as this radio keeps working, I'll keep broadcasting. I'll keep telling my story. I'll keep hoping that somewhere out there, someone is listening. This is Arthur Green, and this might be my last broadcast. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if I'll be able to keep going, but I want you to know that I tried. I want you to know that I never stopped fighting, even when everything told me to give up. If you're out there, if you're listening, please remember me. Remember the man who walked through the snow, who followed the map, who found the shelter that turned out to be empty. Remember the voice that reached out into the silence and refused to be silent. I'm going to walk out that door now. I'm going to follow the footprints and the music and whatever else calls to me. I don't know if I'll find anything. I don't know if I'll find nothing. But I need to keep moving. I need to keep trying. Maya is standing up. She's walking toward the door, her hand reaching for the handle. I'm going to follow her. I'm going to walk out into the snow one last time, and I'm going to see what's waiting for me at the end of everything. This is Arthur Green, signing off for the last time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for not giving up. I'll see you on the other side.